Hey guys, it's Crossroads here. Today I wanted to talk about SAB 121 being repealed, what it means for cryptocurrency, especially for banks that want to hold it, and especially SoFi. Will SoFi get its invest platform back sooner than I expected? So, what is SAB 121 and why was it such a big deal? This was regulation that was published back in 2022 under Gary Gensler and under the prior administration, which basically required banks to not want to hold cryptocurrency ever at all. Now, the reason for that is typically when banks hold an asset, they're allowed to just have a position of the underlying and not have to hedge fully against it. And at least with cryptocurrencies, the risk was perceived by Gary Gensler and the prior administration as significant enough that they required banks to actually hold, in essence, more than the value of the cryptocurrency, just as a hedge of protection against the cryptocurrency and owning that, which made it ineffective for banks to ever want to hold crypto on their platform. It led to things like SoFi, when they obtained their banking charter, they willingly divested from cryptocurrency. They were given a set amount of time to do so, and they did that even earlier than expected, likely because of this regulation. It simply was just unpalatable to own and hold even stable coins. And that has been changed. So today, what came out, and let me pop this up here, is SAB 122. It stands for Staff Accounting Bulletin 122. This is from the SEC. And so this is released today. And basically, here's a summary. It deleted SAB 121. It says it's no longer it's null and void for all intents and purposes here. You can actually go on SEC's website and see the reading of both of these. But yeah, for several years, we had SAB 121 in effect that was really throttling banks from getting involved in cryptocurrency. So is this off to the races? Is Bitcoin going to fly super high and all these other cryptos follow it and banks pile on? Not so fast. There's a few things that really have to happen, especially for SoFi to really reintegrate their invest platform. It can come sooner than they expect, but with governments, there typically isn't just one agency involved, especially with something like the banks. And so, what banks are actually digesting and going through is something called Basel III or Basel III Endgame. It's a series of measures dating back to right after the 2008 Great Financial Crisis. Basel 1 came out, then Basel 2, and this is Basel 3 as well. The third iteration of basically trying to make sure that we don't have a bank run and bank collapse here in the United States. So mostly good things, but there's a lot of rules and regulation. That's a 100-page document. They also released a document several years ago that is entitled Prudential Treatment of Crypto Asset Exposures. This is a 36-page document, and since Basel III did not specifically mention or talk about cryptocurrencies, and yet it was vital that they do so, this came out a couple of years ago, and it's set to go in effect here in January. And specifically what it does is it breaks down, and it says that all cryptocurrencies are not created equal. So, of course, Bitcoin is not the same as the Trump meme coin, and stable coins are not the same thing as Ethereum. So how do you regulate that? And so rather than regulate the whole thing, they're just looking at this from the bank standpoint. What they do is they divide the crypto assets into two different broad groups, and there's also subgroups as well. So group one, which they don't really need to hedge in an unusual way against, are crypto assets that are either tokenized traditional assets. So, for instance, if we have Vlad, my interview, he talks a lot about tokenization. This has been all the rage, really for the last 3 or 4 years. And real world assets are likely to be tokenized at some point. They are to a certain measure, but if this continues and this is forward looking, they're saying, hey, if it's backed by real world assets, then that's fine. We can just treat it as that asset. And likewise with here, Group 1B is stable coins. And so, what is effective or not, that's something that they probably have to further detail, whether that means prudentially regulated like PayUSD, PayPal stablecoin, whether they're okay with Tether. Hopefully not. Tether has some issues. But in essence, with stablecoins, it's the same way that tokenized assets and crypto assets that are stablecoins that are backed on a one-for-one basis, not algorithmic stablecoins or any of that nonsense, they can be treated like a traditional asset. Group 2 are the more traditional cryptocurrencies. And so there's basically two sets of these. And so this includes tokenized traditional assets, stablecoins, and unbacked crypto assets that basically fill the criteria in group one, and then everything else. So you have your fart coin, you have Ethereum, you have Bitcoin, and all of that, which require an additional measure of hedge. So they can't back it simply like everything else. And there's only a certain percent that they're allowed to hold of each of these assets. 1% in the type 1 and 2% in the type 2. And they also have to hedge against that as well. So the larger the bank, the more cryptocurrency they can actually hold. I believe that some of this, especially as it relates to stable coins, and then they get further details on that, is likely to be changed over time and modified over time. Thankfully, it seems like the present administration is keen to provide those guide rails and help people know, like, this is the direction we need to go as an industry. But this is just one of those things that, as it's implemented, this means that it's not going to be completely off to the races with banks, that they have to actually safeguard some of this. They can't hold unlimited crypto, for instance, an example, even outside, even in just group one. Another governmental branch that needs to give some guidance for banks in this matter is the FDIC. Banks, of course, are regulated by the FDIC in part. That's a large part of what they do. And you probably know them for the backing of that $250,000 insurance. And so the FDIC needs to give some guidance as related to that. They likely don't see that as the same as holding just dollars in your own bank account. However, there's likely going to be a mechanism, maybe an additional insurance layer that banks have to pay for in order to be able to safeguard some of the Bitcoin assets, or not Bitcoin, crypto assets, maybe just Bitcoin, maybe just stable coins. We'll see how that comes down, but this may also determine how broadly banks will accept cryptocurrency, if they will allow you to hold it on their platform itself. If there's no FDIC insurance, or it's very expensive or very exclusive, perhaps not many will go that route, but it's something that we need further guidance on. And the OCC, the Office of Comptroller of Currency, they provided some fairly bullish and generous details as far as their vision on crypto. But the most recent documents that we have date back to early 2022. And so likely some of those just need to be updated and clarified as well before banks really feel off to the races, like they can go ahead and just accept crypto on their platform or build that in within their banking app. And that said, this is really exciting for SoFi. I expect what products that they don't have already ready to go with Galileo, they're able to build those out fairly quickly. So if banks want to use APIs in order to onboard some of this crypto or provide that platform, they're able to do so. And remember, SoFi had, as part of their Invest platform, cryptocurrency. And so it wouldn't shock me, especially Anthony Noto is very bullish on crypto as a whole, to see the Invest platform come back basically as soon as they have very clear guidance that it's okay and safe to do so. I don't think they want to offer it again and then something comes up and they have to pull it out back 3 months later and there's all these lawsuits. They don't want that. So I think additional regulation and clarification is certainly needed. And it's going to take a little while for that to come. Governments don't often act as fast as they're currently acting under President Trump. Of course, he just hit the ground running. But I would not be surprised to see at least some talk. Maybe analysts will ask this question in SEC in SoFi's earnings, but some talk about them embracing crypto again. Does it happen in 2025? I'd say it's a coin flip probability. Probably late this year if it happens. If not, next year seems fairly reasonable, especially the way some of these government agencies move. And even when they move, getting additional clarification on some of the words as far as like, what does effective mean? How are they defining this in the context of stablecoins? Anyway, I thought this was very interesting. I do think that it'll tend to add some helium into Bitcoin, which does tend to trade on narrative as well. Since there's just not fundamentals to be had necessarily. That said, let me know what you think in the comments. Is the repeal of SAB 121 a massive deal for crypto? Is there any certain way that you're playing this? Are you thinking that SoFi gets back their Invest platform this year? Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, commenting, and subscribing. Until next time, happy investing.